Why are people leaving Frisco, Texas? Dallas, Texas' most popular suburb.
If you've been considering a move to Frisco, Texas, wait, you need to watch this video first because people are leaving and we're going to tell you why. But before we start, I'm Holly Haven.
And I'm Andy Haven.
And we are the Haven Home Team, and we are here to help you become a Texan.
We've helped so many people move in and out of Frisco, and we're here to tell you, why is everyone leaving?
So I'm going to say the number one reason is rapid growth and just kind of the overcrowding.
Yeah, that's definitely something that people who moved here in the 2000s to 2010 weren't really expecting. And up until today, since 2010, there's been an 88% population growth in the city of Frisco, which if you moved here for a cute rural town that was booming, that is something that might force you out.
Yeah, absolutely. With that crowding, I think the number is we're at 236,000 residents in Frisco.
Yeah.
That means more traffic at red lights and in school zones and on highways. So with the population growth of 88%, between the years of 2015 and 2022, we had a 92% housing growth.
Insane.
That's insane.
So crazy. And that's why in some of our videos we talk about why it's not really attainable to even live in Frisco anymore, because there are not many opportunities, especially to build, but even to buy. A lot of people are living in their homes long term or leaving because they have job opportunities or their kids have graduated, but it's not really one of those things where people are flocking to the area any longer.
Yeah, I think what we're noticing is people who live in Frisco are looking for a way to get just outside of Frisco so they can access the cool things in Frisco, but maybe not live in the middle of it. So we're seeing a little bit of that.
Well, and I think you're also at this point, it's becoming more of a Dallas. Although it is a Dallas suburb, it is a hub for a lot of the smaller towns that surround Frisco. Salina is actually the same size, landmass size as Frisco, which is crazy. And to compare Frisco to McKinney, they're about the same population and McKinney's landmass is much smaller. So it's kind of crazy that our area is seeing the growth that it is, but it is the reason that people are looking for a little bit more space. They don't want to be on top of their neighbors. And they want the access, access to Frisco, but they don't want the tiny townhomes or the apartment lifestyle that Frisco is now offering to a lot of these residents.
Yeah, and that's happening because we're running out of space, which, kind of brings us to the next point.
The high cost of living in Frisco is a little bit crazy. The median household income in Frisco is over $180,000, which is higher than a lot of the other surrounding areas. So this is causing people to kind of have to move away. It's not something that's as attainable as it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that in the home prices. Even though you may find a home on that lower price point side under $500,000, the majority of homes that we're seeing on the market, especially if they're newer, you're getting the more modern amenities or you're closer to things like the PGA headquarters, in the fields, or the Universal Studios that's being built. If you're close to those things, you're paying for access, right? You're paying for these amenities that surround you. So we're looking at close to $1 million and $1 million plus. And then there is a big luxury market in Frisco that offers homes well above $10 million.
Yeah, which I do think is desirable for those types of people and the people that can't afford those things, but it's not something that's attainable for everybody anymore. And again, I keep saying that and going back to that, but Frisco used to be a very attainable city. You could move in at $250K back in 2000 to 2010. That was fairly normal.
Absolutely.
And although we've seen inflation and housing price increases, you're still getting the same quality that you were getting for $250,000. So, and not to say that to just Frisco, but it is something to keep in mind that you are paying a premium just because you're living in Frisco.
Absolutely. The higher price of those housing lots, this is what people don't really always see. They go, it costs the same to build a house, right? It's the same lumber, it's the same sheetrock. All those things have gone up in price.
They have, yeah.
But the land value, because it is so sought after that, 1 acre is potentially $1 million. If you're trying to buy a 1 acre lot, you're looking at more than $1 million in Frisco. So that kind of gives you a little context on, if we buy 50 acres and we can put X number of homes on it, that price per lot is still so high that it really increases the house prices. And that's where a lot of that high cost of living has come from.
Traffic and commuting issues is something that a lot of people in Frisco have mentioned over the years, and especially as they've kind of started to monopolize this. There's not really a freeway access that is free anymore.
There's no freeway in and out of Frisco.
It is now a tollway. Everything is, you have to pay for it. 121 you have to pay all the way from McKinney to who knows where. Yeah. And then the tollway, I mean, you have to pay from Salina all the way to downtown Dallas and even further. So it's one of those things that, yes, it's nice and convenient, but it's not free.
Right. And we've added so many people so quickly, so many more cars on the road, that these highways are having to be expanded and repaired and maintained. And now they're adding to the tollway to head further north. So you're seeing this just general congestion really has increased. It's, it makes everything a little bit more frustrating, right? You can't just jump in the car and go down to HEB and be there in 5 minutes. You might be a mile away and it's going to take you 10 to 15 minutes potentially, depending on the time of day. And that's just the general, added number of people moving to town. And it is a great area and it is so centrally located, but it definitely applies pressure to the day-to-day activities like your commute. And then we have these new developments that have come in that they're amazing and we love them and we're excited about them, but they are only going to add to this congestion.
They are, and they are going to help and benefit the taxes, which is great. There's likely, which I haven't heard of this yet, but there's likely going to be a tourist tax on a lot of these tourist attractions, which will help with the people that live there. It'll provide some more tax dollars to upkeep the area since it will be highly trafficked. But it's also something that if you live nearby, you may be wanting to flee tomorrow, because it's something that if this stuff gets built and people don't want to live next door to it, it might decrease your values. So it's just something that you kind of want to consider. And if you have the option of potentially Airbnb or doing a short-term rental or something like that, this may be your opportunity depending on the neighborhood you live in. Obviously, if you have an HOA, check with your HOA. But it could be an option instead of selling, because I know a lot of our sellers right now are so upset that they have to let go of their 2.2% interest rate. Obviously, that's very depressing. But it could be something that you could kind of utilize and kind of change and make it yours and kind of make it work and make an income off of it if it's something that could work for you guys.
Right. Pivoting your situation based on that growth that's coming. And those two big things that we're talking about, we mentioned briefly earlier, was the PGA headquarters and the Universal Studios. So what is happening is when you think about, yes, we had the number of people move into Frisco, but now we're going to have this massive amount of tourism increase, and that is more roads, more people on the roads, more people in the shopping centers, more just the general congestion. So that's what we're going to feel.
Huge lack of hotels. There is not a single hotel. From my understanding, there will be a hotel at Universal Studios, but from like Stonebridge in Frisco north, there is not a single hotel for large groups of people to stay at. So what's going to happen is people are not going to want to spend money to stay at Universal. They're going to want to Airbnb. They're going to want to VRBO. They'll want to mass rent all of these homes because there's really not any other option to stay in the area. So it's something, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I also think that is causing a lot of the fleeing we're seeing.
It is, absolutely. And if you're thinking of moving to Frisco, it's something you want to know about. All right, our next point would be schools. Frisco has always been known as a very highly rated, sought out school district. Are they still the best? What is Frisco experiencing right now?
Yeah, so they are seeing a lot of overcrowding, especially in their high schools. It's something that I think they started building a lot of these elementary schools, over 100, I believe, at one point. There's so many elementary schools. And then those kids moved on to middle school and now high school. So the high schools are currently feeling so much pressure with so many students. But you also have to understand that those people that moved all through elementary, middle school, and high school are now leaving the elementary schools a little bare. So you are seeing a lower student to teacher ratio in a lot of these elementary schools. They are closing down some elementary schools and middle schools that might have been older or needed repairs that they don't want to spend money on anymore because it's not something that's as necessary.
I expect them to repurpose those buildings, but right now it's a little in influx. We're not sure what they're going to be doing with those buildings.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. But again, there was so much growth back, 2000 to 2010. That those students are now all through high school, and we're not seeing as much of a boom in the school system as we were before.
And I think one of the things that probably attributes to that is the high cost of living in Frisco, the high cost of homes. So as it became so popular, the families that had been there and got in when it was really affordable, made it all the way through middle school, high school potentially, and they're still sitting in those homes because they have the low interest rates. They only bought it for $250 or $350, and now it might be worth $950.
Yeah.
You know, for what you might think is a really standard home. So we're going to see some of those things just continue to play out. They announced this year that they were doing some school choice options within the district. So we're going to be watching Frisco really closely. They still have very high school ratings. They have lots of programs to offer. They have good student-teacher ratios. But it's just kind of been this, you know, pressure applied to such a large district as those things change and as the demographics change and the ages, you know, increase. We saw it happen with Plano. Plano's still experiencing some of this as well. And we're starting to see it with Frisco. So I think that's something we'll watch.
And it is interesting because a lot of school districts used Frisco to kind of plan how they were going to build their district. I know Salina specifically used Frisco as a reference of how they did not want to end up, which is kind of interesting. Salina is planning to fully go 6A at all high schools. That was something that Frisco did not want. They wanted all schools to compete within the district. And I do think that that kind of eliminates a lot of competition and challenge for those students because they are now only competing in the district. So if you have an athlete that you're looking to kind of better their skills, I do think that there might be other school districts that could challenge them a little bit more than Frisco is able to do, considering they only go up to 5A. But it's just going to be interesting to see what they decide to do over the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, and we'll keep our eye on it. And as we see things change, we'll definitely bring that information to you guys. But if you have questions about it, don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to do some digging, make some introductions. That's really what we're here for, is to be a resource. We kind of know and we feel and we see what's happening, but then it allows us to bring you the information that you need. So you know that we're your resource and we'll help you find out what's going on.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of interesting that we have the perspective that we do because I went to elementary school in Frisco. I then went to middle school in Prosper, high school in Prosper, and now I live in Salina. So we have seen the growth and actually physically experienced the growth of the school districts, Frisco and Prosper. So seeing the growth now is very interesting, and we kind of have that insight of the growth that we've seen over the years.
Yeah, just watching that entire series play through of starting from elementary and now seeing them starting to close elementary schools based on, you know, the change in demographics. So we'll keep you guys up to date on that.
And we will see you guys in our next video. Again, if y'all have any questions about the surrounding areas, or if you want us to dive into something very specific about Frisco, please let us know. If you will follow and subscribe, we will see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.